Entonces, retomamos nuestras actividades del día. Vamos a pasar ahora a una Invited Talk con el doctor Alfonso Valiente, que nos acompaña del Instituto de Ecología y también de aquí del C3. Muchas gracias y un aplauso, por favor.
Thank you very much for the invitation to stay here, to present our work. Well, Mezcal has become very famous, you know. It's all over the world. And in this talk, I'm going to talk about the depths, what depths are produced. You know that the depth is something that needs to be paid. So the idea of the depths are how biocultural depths are going or are happening right now, and one proposal to solve some of the problems I'm going to present. Well, a history. More than 40 years ago, Mexican government initiated a plan to industrialize mezcal for exportation purposes. That was the origin of this boom, of this mezcal boom. After this, what happened is this. Thousands of hectares modified to produce monoculture of agave. And many of these monocultures are obtained from clonal propagation of some species of agaves, not all do this. And so that this means that we have plantations with short or little genetic diversity. That limits the evolution and the way the organisms are able to evolve in changing conditions. For example, climate change. But this plan didn't consider the most important producers that are peasant and ethnic groups in 27 states of Mexico. And at least this number, 27,000 of people live producing mezcal in Mexico. And this is a subestimation, underestimation. And here I'm presenting, esto no sirve. ¿Cómo pasas? Para que anuncie. Pero sí, para apuntar. No.
Entonces, la razón es que si absorbe el
sí, cierto. Okay. So traditional producers are artisanal or ancestral. This is palenque, ancestral. The distillation is with pottery. And you can see here also the place where the fermentation takes place, and is done by the skin of cows. So a lot of cultural diversity is involved in this process. And the way to do it, probably everybody knows. They collect tons of wood. 60% of wood is used only during the distillation process, but the other part, the 40%, is used for the ovens, to bake the piñas. These are the piñas, and these traditional producers obtain this firewood and piñas from the field. So after this plant start, traditional producers start collecting many plants, and something like a competition, because there are some limitations for them for sell the mezcal, and that for that reason they started to increase the intensity of overharvesting in the field. So this is now they are these are from San Juan del Rio, Oaxaca, and that's what you can see the impact of these activities mainly by traditional producers, not industrial producers. So let me show you the distribution of agave, Mexico. This is all Mexico. These are the distribution of mezcal agaves, 60 species, different from tequila, just one species. And but check that the distribution of these agaves also are the same distribution of cacti, the very important group because forming forests in Mexico, and other groups, but importantly, nectar feeding bats that are very important interactors with these plants. So this is the statistics. Mexico has 159 species of agave, 75%, and 119 are endemic to Mexico. So this is a typical agave landscape, very diverse areas. For you to have an idea, 1 hectare has more than 100 species of plants, and here live more than 100 animals, invertebrates, vertebrates, etc. So these environments are very rich, and this is in particular the Tehuacán-Cuicatlan Valley. In these environments, all the species, well, 96% of the species recruit only beneath plants. I'll show you, this is an example, Palo Verde, Parkinsonia, recruiting beneath a plant. This explanation is mainly shade, but also more water, more nutrients, but importantly, microorganisms. So that's very important. I'm going to show later. So as you can see, this is Tobalá, the agave of very famous mezcal, Tobalá, and grows beneath this Dasylirium. So this is this way of recruitment of the species is because some species is up here modify the environment and allow or enhance the establishment of other individuals. These individuals, and as you can see this network in which in this case all the species, almost all here open space, very few recruit only by themselves. Most need help. Okay, so you can imagine, for example, the names in red means that they are commonly used for baking piñas in the mezcal production. So these interconnected nodes are very important also for extraction for firewood. So you can imagine then that the effect of cutting, obtaining or harvesting firewood may affect the establishment of many species. The other thing is that along the ontogeny of the interaction, I mean, probably this plant was the initial nurse species that facilitates the establishment on others, but through the arrival of seeds of other species through seed dispersal, a multi-specific patch can be formed. So in this, practically, this is the most common condition in these areas, practically in all the arid areas of Mexico. And that means that probably one aspect is that establishment, the arena of the establishment is this, a multi-specific patch. So what we can see is that we have in these patches networks. And here, this is a very important aspect to understand because the recruitment or the establishment of new individuals is a complex phenomenon. And here, just to mention, this is product of one analysis on a study of us, in which we analyze using isotopes, stable isotopes to know if the nurse species can transfer nutrients from the nurse plant to facilitated individuals. And here I am showing all the species that are facilitated and indicating that different species are receiving different amounts of nutrients from the nurse species. Other important aspect is that agaves and columnar cacti are pollinated exclusively by bats. So there are not many specialized systems like this in Mexico. And for this reason, you can imagine that affecting agaves that flower at the beginning of the year, then if the agaves are affected, are diminished in numbers, that will affect the abundance of these nectar feeding bats, and also they will affect the pollination of columnar cacti. So we try to, I'm going to show how we make different simulations to test the effect of overharvesting of agaves and firewoods to how this would affect the ecosystem. So all the green lines are positive interactions. For example, this species facilitate this, and this species interact through pollination or seed dispersal. Okay, so imagine that we start harvesting this, collecting these plants, and then that would affect the establishment of this, and in time, they are not going to be adults of these individuals, but at the same time, this species facilitate this one. So you can imagine that if you could just put in one species, that will affect also other networks, interaction networks, for example, pollination, or here with a second species of a bat. And then at the end, the system be reduced by different lower number of species in the system, just affecting one species. Okay. So these four networks. The first is facilitation network. The other is early pollination in spring, late pollination in August. Other species, flowers, agaves, and some cacti. Here, most of them agave cacti, and here is the seed dispersal of cacti also. So with this, we analyze how affecting only facilitation, how this can affect the pollination, reducing the numbers of interactors, mainly bats, and how this effect can have a positive feedbacks. And we did this, this is the logic of the analysis. And the result of our analysis, that we did a quantitative analysis. I mean, with this, I mean that our simulation was not sacando, como se dice, removing species, but affecting, reducing the number of sites of regeneration and how this will affect interactors. And what we found is that removing only 60% of the species there is a vortex of extinction, and then when we continue removing quantitatively amounts of interactors, I mean facilitators, the ecosystem collapse. So having that in mind, we decided to, well, to analyze, this is the, to analyze what are the trends in the future. Because here is the trend, what is the forecast of production of mezcal to 2050 under the climate change. We have a little bit. And so here is the, it expected that 37 millions of liters of mezcal are going to be produced in that year. But look at the area that is going to be affected with monoculture if we don't do nothing, okay? And also other aspects of this extraction. Here is the trend, what we need, we expect to happen in terms of water consumption, because water is important in distillation. And you can see distillation, look, the quantities are in millions, and what we are expecting that this trend is going to have a profound effect on the environment of the arid zones. Most of the agaves are in arid zones. Okay, so here is vinases, residuals, and importantly, firewood in millions. Okay, so imagine arid zones are the areas where the plants grow slower or very slow. So this is a huge problem. And let me, what do we think we can do? And this is what I'm going to talk now is what we have been doing in the last three years. This project finished in December of last year. First thing was to need to produce plants, because the extinction depth of mezcal boom is going to destroy a lot of area in different parts of Mexico. 27 states of Mexico produce mezcal. Okay, Oaxaca produced 90% of the mezcal of all Mexico. So Oaxaca, that is the culturally and biotically the state with the highest diversity, is going to be destroyed in considering these problems. So what we did first we conducted research to look for how to make sustainable plantations, because also if the agaves are over, traditional producers are going to be extinct also, because they will be not able to compete with the great factories of mezcal. So the first thing, to start checking if we can produce plants. We did many experiments. One, for example, one was just putting seeds beneath plants, but the survival is 40%, very bad. But if you use these places with shade, we have 100% germination, 100% survivorship after 2 years, and then to transplant the plants to the natural vegetation. And other groups restore some areas in Guerrero, for example, and then restore with legumes that are very important merge species, and then transplant agaves. Was very successful also. So this is the other aspect to for successful in these projects, work with people, peasants and ethnic communities. So he's a part of one transplantation he's the community putting the plants associated to plants using facilitation as a mechanism of, and well, after 6 years, we have a survivorship of 73%, very good. Survivorship put in open space with plants of 2 years, less than 10%, 11%, very bad. So this is the best way of doing. And now we have 6 plantations in Tehuacan, but we have plantations all over Mexico, 6 states of Mexico, and we are expecting to continue this project. Yeah? Okay. Y acá estoy acabando. Other aspect that's very important, the work of the people of Toño del Rio. We saw him a moment ago. We watched him a moment ago. They work in this project producing a prototype of distiller for distillation in order to reduce the firewood consumption. And this experience has been very successful because we can reduce that amount of firewood, and the people, well, during a meeting that we have with 53 producers in Oaxaca and Yanguitlan, Toño and collaborators made a test to the producers, very good producers, to determine if this distillation was traditional or electric. And only two could respond correctly, all the others. So that's you know, that's a very important advance in this problem. And then I'm going to finish here. This program supported by CONACYT, now CECITY, and all the universities and groups that participated in this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Valiente. We're going to start with some questions.
Thank you very much, Vali. I wonder if you could tell the people here about women in Mezcal, because they were forbidden to do it, right? And now there are so many groups. So could you mention about that, please? Yes. No. That's we will ignore that remark.
That's a very good question, because traditionally, mezcal production is not for women, according to the producers. But now there are women organizations and competing directly with the men, very successful, selling mezcal in Palacio de Hierro, things like that. And other very important thing, they are very interested to start sustainable plantations. So we are expecting to get more funds to start working with the women.
Thank you very much for this nice talk. I didn't understand, perhaps because I arrived late. What you're attempting is to recreate like the forest, the desert, or the forest from the desert, including the mezcal species with the, like, to restore the functions of the ecosystem, but not in the normal monoculture. Is that? Can you explain us a little bit how if it's like in comparison with the natural system, how many species would this system or this design ecosystem would have, and the ecosystem functions?
Very, very easy. When you make a monoculture, you transform, you cut all the vegetation. The only bacteria and fungi that might remain in the place are pathogens. The plants, agave, lose microbiome, and they made them vulnerable for pests whatever. The other aspect in monoculture is that the producers, industrial and non-industrial, traditional, have lots of problems with pests, mainly Coleoptera. And we, in our plantations, we don't have any pests in our plantations. And there are studies in the past that shows that if you mix species, it's more difficult for a pest to arrive to the site. If you put the dinner with a monoculture, they will arrive easily. Wow. Well, in an ecosystem, the way the species remain or are maintained is through biotic interactions. So direct and indirect interactions. So that makes a complex system. And for that reason, the other things that the simulations we did explain that you don't need to extinct all the species for the ecosystem to collapse. You just need to reduce the densities of the individuals, and there is a functional extinction of the species.
Or maybe if you have an idea of, I really very much like the networks and the models that arise, but how do you incorporate the knowledge of this huge team of people into such models?
Well, at this moment it's not possible to do because the question is to simulate what is the impact of the overharvesting of not only these people, but also different peoples, whatever. The only question we want to answer is what's the effect on the ecosystem? Because knowing that, we can start working with people. That's what we did, working with people in order to look for solutions that we did.
Vamos, ahí está ya Regina con la... Adelante, por favor.
Thank you very much for a very nice presentation.
Thank you.
I was wondering about the simulations. It's maybe a bit of a technical question, like which kind of formalism did you use and how much data you incorporated into that? And I'm asking because of the first presentation of today, because it seems to be a tipping point. I was wondering if there might be also a backward tipping point, like a positive tipping point. Thanks.
Well, the number of interactions and things like that, I don't remember exactly. But we started with a facilitation network. We have a matrix with nurse species in the columns and facilitated species one by one for all the species. I think more than 53 species and 53 species nurse species, around 93 species facilitated, more or less. And in each file, we have the relative number of individuals that recruit under different species. Facilitation is species specific. Few species produce the good conditions for establishment. So we have for each species, our assumption was because species X is facilitated by species Y, and Y is facilitated by species zeta, then and zeta facilitates X. So this may produce a positive feedback when you remove, and not removing species, just reducing the number of, for example, we put 3 thresholds. For example, threshold of 0.5, threshold between 0 and 5 and 1, and 0.5 would mean that I need to remove 0.5 of the NERs that are facilitating that species. And then we simulate it. But that means that, for example, if species X affect Y and indirectly zeta, so that would increase the effect on and we decided if the threshold was 0.5, when we simulate and we see that that species is equal or less than the threshold, we decided that this species is extinct. Okay.
Thanks a lot. It was a great talk. I find it encouraging that the producers couldn't tell the difference between the two distillation types, and that's encouraging. I was, huh? Yeah. I was wondering if something similar has happened, or if you're planning to do for quite a few other produce that are niche like that. People talk about the terroir, and I'm guessing the mezcal should be much nicer when it comes from the more ecologically sound conditions. Yes. Have you done work to tell if people recognize that there's better tasting mezcal when it comes from those conditions?
Some of the producers are really impressive. They tell you, considering the size of the pearl, you know how it's the pearl, and you move the mezcal and make bubbles. They say this is 50 degrees, and they were checking with an analyzer, 50 degrees. So that tells you that, yes. The problem with the terroir, no one knows terroir knows proper. The problem with the denominación de origen, origin denomination, is that most of the denominations are at the state level, and sometimes just one municipio. So it's very, the denomination, origin denomination, actually is used to limit the participation of traditional producers in selling the mezcal. So this is like something against them. And I think in relation to the terroir, for example, in France, just one ranch has a terroir for, ¿cómo se llama? Bueno, vino, wine, or champagne. Yes. But here is completely crazy. Just 10 states has denomination of origin, estatal or municipal. But mezcal is produced in 27 states. So the people that has no origin denomination cannot sell their product as mezcal. They need to say bebida de agave. So I think it would be really important to change and to give opportunity, obviously putting rules for everybody to produce their plants. And I think that that would be an economic motor, very important for the people, very poor people. I don't know, I want to answer you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so the thing is that the next speaker is Gemma de les Coves, the Universidad Pompeu in Barcelona. So the thing is that she said this morning she would be online at 12 o'clock. And the thing is that we did the test, but the thing is that she sent another email to say, I'll be on. She screwed up herself, it sounds like, on the time, or got confused, saying I'll be on at 12:50. Right? So she advanced the time an hour. So the thing is that, I just sent her an email to basically say, hey, can you come on now? But meanwhile, the thing is that the reason she's in here is she's quite a few months pregnant, and she decided she couldn't travel, right? So that's why she's going to be online. Okay, so the thing is that, there won't be time to, well, Paul's not ready, you said, right? So, well, it's okay. I mean, the thing is that, I think it's either, more questions for Bali, or, basically that Paddy is still here. I think Francisco left, did he? Or is Francisco still here? Well, the thing is that Paul Schrader is just finishing his slides outside. So, I mean, in principle, you could start it with 2 people or whatever. I mean, that's a possibility. So, but she never sent me her like WhatsApp number to kind of keep a closer contact. So either that, or we can, if anybody wants a coffee again. So it's it's basically a democratic networking or whatever. Yeah. So but the thing is that you'll be ready in the sense of as soon as she comes online, then we'll start again. So we don't get too.
Muchas gracias, Vali. Un aplauso, por favor. Time to network.